Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call our Missoula Board of County Commissioners meeting of May 10th to order. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So just a few points of housekeeping today. It looks like we've got a few folks who might be interested in testifying. If you could make sure your cell phones are silenced. If you did not, as you were coming into the room, there's a sign-up sheet. Please do sign in. That helps with spelling of people's names and just knowing who all testified or were present. When you make comments, comments will be limited to 3 minutes today. We've got quite a crowd of folks interested in expressing your views. If someone prior to you testifying has said the exact same thing as you are planning on saying, maybe take a pass, and those comments have been duly noted, and that idea has been expressed. Address the chair, and that is me, with your comments, not staff, and try to be respectful. Everyone might have a different opinion today on issues, and all of those diverse opinions are equally valued and respected. We have a proclamation today to begin with. This is to proclaim May 19th, 2018 as Kids to Parks Day. So I'll go ahead and read this for us. Whereas May 19th, 2018 is the 8th Kids to Parks Day organized and launched by the National Park Trust, held annually on the third Saturday of May. And whereas Kids to Parks Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks. And whereas it is important to introduce a new generation to our nation's parks. And whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat the issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and hypercholesterolemia. And whereas Kids to Park Day is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage a large and diverse group of participants, and whereas Kids to Parks Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and outdoors, now therefore we, the Missoula Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim to participate in Kids to Parks Day. We urge residents of Missoula County to make time on May 19th, 2018 to take the children in their lives to a neighborhood, state, or national park. The other announcement I'd like to make is just a big thank you to our Office of Emergency Management, Sheriff's Office, and all other emergency responders and volunteers who are helping with the current flood emergency effort across Missoula County. Your efforts have not gone unnoticed. Any other announcements from the Commission?
Two that relate to parks. So the Fort Missoula Regional Park section, the second phase will open, have its official opening June 22nd? Friday, right? 28th. Okay, we hope for June 28th. Then the new Milltown State Park will open on June 23rd. So 2 places to take kids to parks.
Very good. Adults. Thank you. So as you probably noticed, we have 3 public hearings today. So before we get to those, though, are there any public comments on items not on today's agenda? Senator Sands.
Members of the Commission, Mr. Chairman, for the record, Diane Sands, Senator for Orchard Homes, Target Range, Lolo. And I want to just, again, kind of reiterate, the last couple of days, Representative Willis-Curdy and I have spent a great deal of time out in the flood zone and working with all of the public and the members of the county staff who are doing a really amazing job trying to deal with the situation that's going to go on through June, apparently, from what they tell us. And I think one of the things that we need to be thinking about is giving some of our staff some relief, because clearly the sheriff's office can't work 24/7, week after week, and I don't know how that's being planned for, but hopefully members of the public will also step forward and realize this is not going to just end with the weekend and the needs that we have for people to come stuff sandbags, but we're going to need people through June to be volunteers in various ways. And right now, I think everyone's working together really well. The public is enthused and cooperative, if not knowledgeable about how to actually correctly stack a sandbag. But it's going really well out there. I want to thank all the public that are doing it and the county staff. They're really remarkable. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Additional public comment on any items not on today's agenda? Okay. Our current claims list, and this would be for claims received as of April 20th, 2018 to May 3rd, 2018 by the Commissioner's Office, total $1,623,000.48. We have 3 public hearings today. If you are testifying and come to the mic, I think the mic is already on, so please state your name for the record when you do. We'll begin with a public hearing on Easy Outdoor Salvage proposed wrecking yard and begin with a staff report from Shannon Terrio and Anna Conley.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Is this picking me up? Okay. I have to be pretty close to it. Okay. Excellent. I've already gone past my slides. Okay. This is a proposed wrecking yard, and it is located near the Y. This is the Y, and a closer up version is off of Deshaw Lane. This is what is currently the property configuration. Sorry about that. It is Lot 5. Lot 5 is proposed, and I'm sorry this is turned so that it's not in the same, that north is this way instead of that way. But it is a proposed industrial townhome development. Townhome doesn't mean that there are actually going to be homes there. That's just the term of art for this way of dividing a parcel. And so it is proposed to be on Lot 8. So it's a portion of Lot 5, but it will be it's actually called Townhome Unit 8. When I say Townhome Unit 8, I mean proposed Townhome Unit 8 for the rest of the presentation. Townhome Unit 8 is about 5.28 acres. The 8 lots in that subdivision range from anywhere from 1.88 acres to 8.11 acres. So the reason why this is in front of you today is because the state law allows commissioners to hold a public hearing within 30 days of getting notice from DEQ that a wrecking yard has been applied for. And when you hold a public hearing, adopt a resolution either in support or in opposition of the location of the proposed facility. DEQ cannot grant a license if the commissioners adopt a resolution opposing the license. And specifically what the commissioners are looking for is whether this location will significantly affect the quality of life of adjoining landowners and the surrounding community. The zoning in this area, I'm obviously not a zoning expert, and Casey is here if you have any questions about the zoning, but the zoning is light industrial, although you can see that it is also surrounded by residential zoning. And this is the area where the proposed wrecking facility will be. Now, there's already a wrecking facility on part of Lot 5, and if I go back, sorry. Hope nobody has. This is very touchy, as you guys can see. Right now, there is a wrecking facility here on Lot 1. It is a unlicensed wrecking yard. And you have previously had a public hearing on this. This is what it looks like, what it looked like in June of 2017. The applicants for Easy Auto Salvage did start this wrecking yard before they were licensed and before they applied for a license. The commissioners, once the license was applied for, held a public hearing in February and took public comments, adopted a resolution to oppose it. I didn't even touch it that time. I know I touched it, but it didn't seem like I touched it. Adopt a resolution to oppose it, and DEQ denied the license officially March 16th in 2018. The public comments that you heard at that hearing is that the fence was insufficient to block the junk from public view, the junk vehicles from public view. Dayshaw had been negatively impacted by towing of vehicles into this unlicensed yard, and neighbors were concerned that it would affect their land values, and they didn't want to have to look at a wrecking yard from their properties. One of the reasons that the commissioners, I think, opposed the license is because the health department presented information that there had been 18 years of noncompliance with these applicants in other yards. The cars that had been brought into the wrecking facility on proposed townhome unit 1 were from the Long Acres yard, and that yard was never licensed. And then they also own a wrecking yard on Gary Moore Lane, and we had quite a bit of, we had many, many years of complaints. It started out as an unlicensed yard. They routinely would store junk vehicle parts and junk vehicles outside the fence, and didn't operate in compliance with the conditions that the commissioners had put on their license in 2009. And so these are just pictures showing you what those problems were. After DEQ denied the license, we met with the applicants and the landowner several times, actually. And one of the things that came out of those meetings were a decision to no longer try to get a license on, I don't know, on this townhome unit 1 area, and instead to apply for a license on Lot 8. That came after I should do this up here. Okay. That came after the owner of this property had gone and talked to some of the neighbors and looked at the situation from their front porches and decided Lot 1, really, townhome unit 1 was not a good place to have a wrecking yard. But you will notice, I'm going to touch this again, that here is where townhome unit 8 is, and this is another wrecking facility. So it's right up against a wrecking facility, and it is further from these other homes. Oh, this is just another picture of that. The other thing that came out of our conversations was an agreement between the applicants and the health department, a compliance agreement. And this is a way for us to ensure that if a license were granted, that they would operate in compliance with the rules and the laws of the junk vehicle rules and laws, but also in a way that would not significantly affect the neighboring community. It applies to all 3 yards, Gary Moore, the unlicensed yard on townhome unit 1, and any future yards that they have in Missoula County. It requires that all vehicles be stored inside the fence, that junk vehicle and car parts be shielded from public view at all times, that junk, garbage, and rubble can not be allowed to accumulate on the property. This compliance agreement is enforceable in court, and it sets up a penalty structure that actually goes beyond what the penalties are if we're just relying on the junk vehicle regulations and laws. It also requires that the junk vehicles be moved from, all the vehicles be moved from townhome unit 1 within 30 days of either being granted a license or being denied a license. So one of the things that we recognized is it's better just to stop. Don't move those cars to a new location. They need to show that they will get a license first and then take cars there second. And so that's why those cars are still there, but the compliance agreement requires that they be moved within 30 days. Since we've had the conversations, the Chinikalos have done a lot to clean up their property on Gary Moore. They are no longer parking cars along the fence, which was one of the problems blocking this road so that other vehicles couldn't get through, or this fence. You'll see that there are no cars parked There are no junk vehicles that are in view, and there are no car parts that are in view. This was taken in April. We went by again on May 3rd, and it looked the same. No junk vehicle, inventory cars, or junk parts were visible outside the fence. You have received one written public comment before today. That neighbor was skeptical that the Chinikalos would follow the compliance agreement because we have done quite a few things in the past to try to gain compliance from these operators. They want to make sure that there's a proper fence there, which I think to them means a solid wooden fence that's not required by the law or the regulation. A chain link fence that has the slats in it, which is what they have now on Townhome Unit 1, is one of the ways that you can shield cars by law. And they really don't want it to expand beyond that. They recognize that, yes, that's further away from their house, but they don't want it to expand beyond that Townhome Unit 8 and are concerned about that. So we feel good about the compliance agreement and our ability to enforce the compliance agreement. We're hoping that we won't have to enforce the compliance agreement. But based on that, we recommend that the commissioners do support the wrecking facility license at this location. As long as they operate in compliance with the agreement, the laws and the regulations, a facility at this location should not significantly affect the quality of life of adjoining landowners and the surrounding community. Do you want to add anything, Anna?
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant, Mr. Chinikalo, or applicant's representative here? Do you want to, you don't have to, but you can certainly come to the mic and say a few words.
Vadim Chinikalo. Happy to see everyone again. So yeah, like Shannon stated, we met a few times. We went over everything, and this is I feel a great compromise. It's not ideal, but it's a compromise I think we can live with. If the people around can live with it, I think it's a good way to move forward. And I got the resolution here that we did come up with, and yes, I understand the concern. Well, yeah, whatever, they, he just throw it away and do whatever. But I mean, basically, I signed my life away. So this is not something I'm going to take lightly whatever, I can do whatever I want tomorrow, So I feel it's going to be a new chapter for all of us to move forward, to do it right, to do it, to please everybody involved, because I live, like I stated before, I live about a half mile from there in a new home we just built. So I feel where the neighbors are coming from, and that's another point that, hey, I'm going to take care of it because I live right there too. So if anyone's got any questions, any concern, the fence we plan on building will be solid if all the approvals go through. So there will be no slats like Shannon mentioned. It will not be see-through. The topography is much better. I'd like to add that. It's much higher than this because the fence, we could have put up a 20-foot fence, and just the way the first lot was, you're up top on the hill and you can see right into it. So that's another point, is that the topography suits it better. We're right up against another one. And I think we'll take care of two birds with one stone, because we'll cover the back fence of IAA, because right now you can off a day shot, you can see right in there. So that's the statements I'd like to make. And if anyone's got any questions or suggestions, I'd like to be transparent. I'm around. Come to me, let me know what concerns you or what you'd like to know. So,
Thank you. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there any public comment on the application by Easy Outdoor Salvage for an auto wrecking yard at this location? Come on up.
Thank you. I'm Joe Fraser, and I've addressed you before in your administrative meeting. These guys are going to be my neighbor now, because I not only own that piece, I did a boundary line readjustment that puts me right beside them. And I also intend to sell the other 7 lots in that. So we've struck a deal to where these guys are going to toe the line, and I have pretty good faith that this is going to happen this round. We had some really serious discussions with these fellas about their past activities, and I see a change in them, and I think you've seen it too. Now, I know there's concern because they have quite a record of not complying. With Vinnie taking over the lead, I think we've got a new direction with these people. So I'd really like to see you approve this. I think it's something we need. There's more and more demand for wrecking yards, and this puts it right beside another one. And I think that's the spot for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Additional public comment? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Questions from the commission?
I'd just like to thank all the parties for coming together and coming up with a solution. I'd like to thank the Chinakalos for recognizing the neighbors' concerns and addressing that. And the compliance agreement does have some pretty strong penalties in it if they don't comply. And we can already see that they've figured that out and complied. I think relocating it addresses most of the issues that we heard last time. So I think this is a good project.
Cola?
Just one question. Previous issues with enforcement and the ability to enforce, was it just being done under the junk vehicle laws, or wasn't there some sort of agreement before that we were not able to enforce very well? And how is this different?
The previous order was completely reliant on the junk vehicle laws, but it also was kind of a nightmare the way that it was set up. Basically, it was set up where if DEQ told them that they had a junk vehicle outside the fence, they had, I think, 24, 48 hours to move it. And then if they didn't move it, there would be a fine. So it didn't matter if if we go out there 7 days in a row and there's a different junk vehicle out there. This is way more comprehensive than that was. The other thing is that we weren't 100% sure of the correct enforcement mechanism for the conditions that the commissioners placed on the wrecking facility in 2009. And this makes it very clear what the mechanism is. And so this goes beyond just the junk vehicle regulations in that inventory vehicles that wouldn't qualify as a junk vehicle cannot be stored outside the fence in a way, so that the intent there is so that the roads aren't blocked by those cars, that they keep all of their activities inside the fence. So.
But state law does allow us to enter into a compliance agreement like this.
Yeah, we have authority to do that through the health department, and yeah, we feel, and yeah, Title 50.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So Shannon, our motion is just to notify the Department of Environmental Quality that we are in agreement with this application. Is that the wording? Or that we support it?
Okay, so I think that what you have to do is adopt a resolution. We did provide you a draft resolution, but it needs to incorporate public comment. And while there was some public comment in favor today, that should be incorporated, but so should the written comment. And so Anna will provide the final version of the resolution. I'll be out of town, but she said she would shepherd that through to make sure that we get it to DEQ in time. We do have to get the resolution to DEQ by June 2nd. You have June 1st. You have 30 days from when you received the notification from DEQ, which was May 2nd.
Okay,
So-
so the
so
motion
we're
would be
good.
to adopt the resolution after we incorporate the public comment.
Okay.
I would move that the Board of County Commissioners adopt a resolution supporting granting the license to Vadman Chinakalo and Easy Outdoor Salvage for a motor vehicle wrecking yard facility on the portion of Lot 5, Dayshaw Lane Subdivision Number 2 in Missoula County on the basis as long as they abide by state law, state rules, and the compliance agreement, the wrecking facility will not significantly affect the quality of life adjoining landowners and surrounding community, and that this resolution include public comment heard today.
I'll second that. I think this is a much better proposal than the first time, so thanks for all the work you guys put into it.
Any additional discussion? And I would also add, thanks for your work on the compliance agreement, and I would just want to emphasize to the Chinakailos the importance of complying with this agreement to both rebuild public trust and also to maintain quality of life for those who live in that area. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes. Thank you. We'll look forward to the final resolution. So the next item before us is consideration of authorizing Public Works to remove barriers located in the 3800 block of North Avenue West. And I should say to begin with, we are taking public comment today on this item. We'll hear a staff report to help set the context. My plan is not to move to any decision today on this, but to take comment, bring forward any additional questions that deserve investigation, and after the meeting to decide what the next steps forward would be. So we'll begin with a staff report from Greg Robertson with Public Works, and/or John Hart with our County Attorney's Office, should the need arise.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Greg Robertson, Director of Public Works. As a matter of history, this piece of North Avenue was acquired by the county from the previous owner prior to the Marquette's acquisition of the property. I believe it was back in the 80s. And therefore, by definition, it meets the definition of a county road. The county road statutes are fairly nebulous, with the exception of the issue of obstructions. And the state law says that obstructions shall be removed, whether it be a gate, a fence, a fallen tree, whatever is prohibiting the full use and enjoyment of the right-of-way by the public. And we have previous, in a number of instances, had to deal with gates across county roads, and have either had to remove them or have them unlocked, or other types of obstructions that have prevented the public's full use of the right-of-way. In this particular case, I believe the at least oral history to me coming from Horace Brown, who was the county surveyor at the time I was hired back in 2000, that he had ordered the installation of the barrier across the road at the east end of the Marquette property. I never did get a reason why, other than he put it in. Fast forward to 2015, the Marquettes had their property up for sale, and the commissioners felt that it would be appropriate to make sure that future buyers or prospective buyers of the Marquette property were disclosed with the fact that there was a county road that went through the middle of the property, which is North Avenue. There were also some signs that were not compliant with manual and uniform traffic control devices, and I was asked to investigate and meet with the Marquettes to talk to them about both the signage issues, the barricade issue, and getting some disclosure language included in their buy-sell agreements. And the Marquettes were very cooperative. Signs were removed, and the Marquettes agreed after some time to put disclosure language in clearly stating that a county road went through the middle of their property, since they own both sides of North Avenue. We also talked about the barrier and the need to remove it. At the time, their only concern about its removal was that the road surface that currently exists was basically pavement placed over topsoil. And they felt that it would not take long with vehicular loads that it would pound out and need to be repaired. So I met with you in February 2015 to discuss the matter, and you authorized its removal. And shortly thereafter, as I was getting things organized, we got into flood season and had a number of failures that just became a back burner thing. I brought it back up again to my crew to get it removed earlier this year, and was advised by the board to hold off on doing anything, and there was to be some public discussion about it. So at the request of one or more commissioners, this was put on today's agenda, and here we are currently. John is here to answer the legal aspects of it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anything you'd like to add at this time?
Yes, I think I should add,
Is your mic on? Or,
is it on?
oh, yeah, okay, there we
Yeah,
go.
you got to get up a little close.
So commissioners, I'm painfully aware that, that the legal message that I have to give you today is not a popular one. I understand that there's probably few people in this room who want to hear what my opinion is on Montana road law. And in fact, if I was one of the neighbors who lived out there, I'd probably be at the front of the line saying, "Don't open this road. It's fine the way it is." I get that, but it's my job as your legal advisor by law, and I got ethical responsibilities to tell you what the law is. And so that's what I'm going to do. Bear with me. Before I dive into road law, I think it's important for everybody to kind of understand the way that county government operates vis-a-vis the legislature. Our Montana Constitution grants to counties only those powers that the legislature explicitly authorizes and the powers that are reasonably implied in those laws and authorities that are given by the legislature. And I mention that because that is almost the mirror opposite of the way that cities with self-government charters operate. So cities are essentially opposite of that. A city that has a charter and self-government powers can do anything that it wants to do that isn't otherwise prohibited by the legislature. Now, Missoula County could enact a self-government charter, and that's gone in front of the county electorate before, and it's failed. So at least as it is right now, Missoula County is not seen fit to take on those kinds of powers. So we're left with being able to do only what is specifically authorized in Montana law. The second principle that I just want to introduce is this principle: when you look at statutes, the specific prevails over the general. And so as I move into what the legislature has authorized us to do in terms of road law, I'm going to first talk about those general statutes. And, there's in Title VII, Chapter 14, Part 21, that's where you find general provisions related to county roads. And the first statute I want to read to you is 7-14-2101. And it says, "The Board of County Commissioners, under the limitations and restrictions that are provided by law, may lay out, maintain, control, and manage county roads and bridges within the county." We'll move on to 7-14-2102. "Each Board of County Commissioners may in its discretion do whatever may be necessary for the best interest of the county roads and the road districts." Well, the last general statute I want to read to you is 7-14-2103. And it states, "A Board of County Commissioners has general supervision over the county roads within the county. A board may survey, view, lay out, record, open, work, and maintain county roads that are established in accordance with this chapter. A board may discontinue or abandon county roads when freeholders properly petition for discontinuance or abandonment. And finally, a Board of County Commissioners may determine the level and scope of maintenance on a county road under its jurisdiction." So those are three of your general powers when it comes to county roads. And you might have noticed that each one of them said may. They're discretionary. You may do all those things. You may maintain. You may lay out. You may do this, that, or the other thing that I just read. You don't have to. But again, let's remember the principle that the specific prevails over the general. So you have broad discretion to manage county roads. But in looking for specific statutes, the one that I want to reference you to is 7-14-2127. And that is, the title of that is Temporary Limitation or Prohibition of Traffic. And that statute reads, "A Board of County Commissioners may in its discretion limit or forbid temporarily any traffic or class of traffic on the county roads or any part of a county road when it is necessary in order to preserve or repair the roads. Board of County Commissioners may temporarily close a county road or a bridge or any part of a county road for maintenance or repair if the board determines that the road or bridge is unsafe. This temporary closure is not considered abandonment. The Board of County Commissioners shall erect signs indicating that the road is closed." So you have this general discretion and authority to manage all county roads, but that is tempered by the specific prohibition on permanently closing a county road. And I want to, that's about all I have to say. And gratefully, I don't have to make the decision about what you do with North Avenue. I mean, that's the good news for me, the bad news for you. But it's not so much that I'm telling you that you have to open North Avenue. I mean, I've laid out the law. I've told you that the specific statute prohibits anything more than a temporary closure of the road. And so I'll leave it at that. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I think perhaps so. Commissioner Rowley.
I guess I don't have a question, but you saying that you're not saying we have to, but really it's part of our duties of office to not run afoul of the law And I don't, and if,
Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way, and I was going to say this, and then I decided not to, but this is a good way to say it. If Missoula County were to be, if somebody went to a district court judge and said, give me an order ordering North Avenue to be open to vehicular traffic, that'd be a really tough claim for me to defend, especially after everything I've said right here on the record.
John, before we get into public comment, one other piece of statute that Montana code that could use some clarification, or at least your opinion on, would be 7-14-2601, petitioning to establish, alter, or abandon a county road. I think I sent this to you earlier. Do you have any thoughts on that, particularly as it relates to altering a county road?
I wasn't able to do any thorough research, Commissioner, but it's my opinion that the word alter is meaning that you're actually altering. It would be a petition to alter the path of the right-of-way itself, not necessarily altering the specific uses of the county right-of-way, or putting some sort of limitations on the use of the county right-of-way. Now, that's my own opinion. I saw the email where this question came up, and the notion of petitioning to, alter the road in other ways other than just moving the actual layout on the ground. That's a novel theory, and lawyers are always looking for novel ways to solve problems. But I don't believe that statute is something that would be applicable to actually altering the vehicular use, or somehow limiting the way that the road can otherwise be used, as all other county roads are used.
Commissioner Curtis?
So that is the interpretation that we've received from several attorneys prior to you. So because we have altered roads where the right-of-way shows in a certain spot on the map, but the road has always been over, or something happened that the road needed to be altered, so we've done that. I think the other thing, because I can just hear people's gears going in their head right now saying, well, all we have to do is ask them to abandon. So, just so you know, when we are asked to abandon roads, and when we go out to look at them, which is another thing that's required in law, that we have to actually go out and look on site. We have a couple things that we have to consider. One is all folks who use that road to access their property have to agree. And the other is we need to look at, so was there a future use? And so I'll give you an example of one that we did. So if you know out by the Y where they shoot, trap, and skeet, in that general area, there was a request to abandon a piece of public road right-of-way. There's no road, but the right-of-way is always shown there, that actually heads down the hill and would go under the freeway and come out on the other side over by the Frenchtown Frontage Road. We didn't abandon that because we felt someday in the future it might be needed, as more and more folks live out that way, to build another underpass under the freeway so that folks don't have to get up on the freeway and get back off. So those are the kinds of things that we weigh, is we do need to look at the future. The other I'd like John to just clarify is we've also been told that we can't abandon a public road right-of-way and turn it into a trail right-of-way. Now, once in a while, when someone asks us to abandon a piece of old right-of-way that isn't really used that way, they will say, we would like to gift you the right-of-way for a trail, but we can't turn road right-of-way into trail right-of-way through any piece of abandonment law, right?
John?
Correct. That's correct. There are specific statutes that provide for designating pedestrian and bicycle trails. But that's a whole different process than the process for establishing a public road right-of-way under Title VII.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and take some public comment. I'll open up a public hearing on this item. Come to the microphone. You can either queue up behind the mic or the pillar, or just wait for each other to sit down and come on forward. And please state your name for the record.
Tom McCall, 4316 North Avenue West. We also own both of Marquette's properties, and I have 4 photos. Can we get them up here somehow?
Sure.
I think it'd be helpful just so everybody's looking at the same thing. And that's a view from the east, and left and right are okay. All right, that's the east boundary where the blockade is, and beyond that fence and across that area is the irrigation ditch with a culvert underneath. And that's our concern, is once traffic begins across that, the culvert's going to be crushed and not good. This kind of depicts how wide the road is. Center line of easement would be about the left side of that pickup truck. Again, from the east. And the other side of the culvert for the irrigation ditch. We're in opposition. We just feel it's going to be a freeway from the school to McClay Bridge.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McCall.
So, Mr. McCall, you were, however, when you purchased the property, you were aware that it was
We
a
were.
public easement, right?
We felt at the time that they would do it properly, or it would be done correctly. For that to be done, now a new head gate was put in last year, which is within the easement, along with all those trees would have to be removed. And so we're just looking at it as somewhat of a liability and a safety issue.
Okay. Yeah, Cola.
I don't know if everyone has a copy of the request for commission action. I wasn't aware of the very specific proposal until I read that. But I'm going to read that just so that people can maybe specifically comment on what the exact proposal is from Public Works, which is to authorize them to remove the barriers located in the 3800 block and to construct a single-lane road with suitable structural base to support vehicle loads with stop conditions in conjunction with a widened vehicular turnout at either end of the 3800 block of North Avenue West, McCall property. So just in case people weren't familiar with this specific proposal.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McCall. Come on up.
My name is Tom Schmidt. I live at 1850 Garden Grove Lane, which is about 150 yards from where the obstacle is. I walked my dog there, past it this morning, just by coincidence. I have 2 major principles for you. I'm against removing the barrier because the first thing, it's a great neighborhood. The road being the way it is perfect. Dogs, cats, horses, bikes, pedestrians can walk along there and meet one another. I have been a land use planner in Helena, Montana, and one of the things that we try to do is make neighborhoods work, and sometimes it's hard to make them work. That neighborhood works exactly the way it is. So I'm going to share a huge principle with everybody here, and I hope maybe people in the audience would agree with me. Don't break something that's not broken. It's just dandy the way it is. The second thing that might tie into your thinking, I can only think of one real reason to remove that barrier and have it be kind of a main road, a real live road. And that would be if you have to get people over to the bridge. Right now, north of the horse park is 3rd, 7th, and Spurgeon. Anybody that wants to get over the bridge can take any of those 3 roads to get there. If you want to get to the bridge from the south side, you get on south and you go over there. If I have fished a little bit off the bridge or near the bridge, there is not a problem with people crossing the bridge. There isn't that much traffic. I don't think there's a need to open up that road so you can get cars over there to the bridge. So if I can just say this again, find something that needs to be done. Why in the world would we want to waste the county money on taking that obstacle or barrier out, having to fix up the road, put gravel down, and doing it in a manner that damages the community? Why would we want to waste money to do that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. And I would ask folks to please avoid applause during this meeting. As tempting as that is, we want to remain respectful of all views here. Yes.
Hi, my name is Kelly Schweitzer, and we did the subdivision right on the west side of McCall's now. And so it's a 5-acre subdivision. It's Kelly Acre. It's called Dairyview Court. And right now that road is it is a private road. It's not public. I'm concerned with the high school students coming through there and starting to use that road a lot. Also, in the previous hearing, you guys talked about quality of life. This is why we are out in this area. This is why we bought this 5 acres and we subdivided it. And we have great neighbors. We have awesome neighbors. So we're all begging you, do not put this road through. We're happy the way it is. There's going to be more increased traffic, cars. There's a ton of people that go, every time I go home from work, there's a ton of people on North Avenue walking, strollers, dogs, kids, little kids. Don't do this. Do not take this away from us. This is our quality of life. That's what we moved into target range for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schweitzer. Next.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Roy Nicolette. I live at 3615 North Avenue. I've lived there 30 years this coming August. I have a home office, second story. I'm quite sure that there's nobody that sees more of North Avenue than I do, because I probably average at least 4 hours a day taking a glance out the window or hearing racing going on or whatever. When my wife and I moved there 30 years ago, this was an area that was developing into a bunch of us old people like I am now. And now we're getting young people, got young people with little kids on both sides of me. It's great. We're alive. And all of the kids that go to Target Range Grade School live on the north side of South Avenue. And if North Avenue is opened up, what is now a fairly significant safety, an area where they're secure in getting down to Clements or somewhere where they can get across to the school, you know, they've got a pretty good shot now, and you've put in some sidewalk type things. It's pretty secure. But if North Avenue opens up, I guarantee you, I mean, you can call the sheriff's department. They're kind of tired of hearing my name, because, you know, I've lost a mailbox. My well, which is 20 feet inside my property, has been hit twice. You know, people are human beings, and the younger they are, we have this testosterone thing, and we put down the foot on the pedal and all kinds of thinking. And our neighborhood is becoming, you know, with these younger people moving in, is becoming more alive again. and we talk to each other, and the walking, I'm directly across from the walking trail on the equestrian park. I look out there, I got 24 feet. I see everything 2 blocks that way, 2 blocks that way. And, you know, people are talking to each other. The biggest problem I think you got, I don't have any answers for you, but the biggest problem I see is that eventually South Avenue has got to be the planning point, because when that bridge is built, nobody's going to be on North Avenue anyway. You're going to open up a dead spot, but until that bridge gets built, we're going to suffer on North Avenue. And Mr. Robertson is right about North Avenue, a great deal of it being built on topsoil, because in front of my house, if he checks his record, I've called 3 times in the last month. I can't get out of my garage with the holes. And when I did my, Knife River did my driveway, we had to take out 120 yards of topsoil, and that's the same thing that's in the street in front of me. So, you know, you don't have an easy answer from a legal standpoint, but from a moral standpoint, help our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nicolette.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Mike Buckley. I live on the northeast portion from where the barrier is located. Our property starts at the barrier and goes to the east to the Garden Grove subdivision. We live on a 1-lane road. There's 2 people that live on that particular road from Garden Grove to the barrier. And it's a dirt road, potholes, and my neighbor and I, we have maintained the road for the past, I've lived there 22 years. And the problem that I see with this development is you're looking at people coming through, and when I spoke to Greg Robinson, he indicated that they were going to put up a sign that says 1-lane road. And right now there's a sign that says dead end. And you would be amazed at how many people cannot read, because when I was coming to the meeting today, I waited in my driveway for an individual to turn around and go because the barrier's there. And 1-lane road is not adequate. And that's what Greg had proposed that they were going to put up there. And it's just, there is not enough room on our property or the McCall's property where the current road is paved, formerly Marquette. Once you plow the road in the wintertime, on Tom's property, the road bevels down on the north and the south side. So you can only effectively plow the width of the road, and there will be no place for children to walk. And you're going to have people coming through at a fairly good speed and not recognizing that it's 1 lane, because again, people aren't reading dead end, so they're not going to read 1 lane. And there's a culvert that you've got to go over. There's a power substation right beside the culvert. There's sloping sides on North Avenue on the McCall's property, and I don't think it's conducive. I've enjoyed having the peace and quiet for 22 years, but if you're going to do it right and make it a 2-lane road. Don't put people at risk by children walking on the side, and they'll be in snow because the plow can't get beyond the road surface. So if a road is opened and someone's coming at a high rate of speed, they stand the chance of hitting children. And this was maybe 25 years ago. I don't know if you recall, but there was a student from Big Sky High School. He got out of school going down South Avenue at a high rate of speed, and he hit a telephone pole and was killed. So if you can do it on South Avenue, you can certainly have people in danger on North Avenue. And I think the county should be held liable for any type of liability that comes because people get hit. I think it's the county's fault. And solve it. Either keep it one lane with a barrier the way it is right now, or make it a 2-lane, but don't go halfway.
Thank you, Mr. Buckley. And I do agree that many drivers are functionally illiterate, without a doubt.
Hi there, Ann Rupp-Calvis. I don't live near this area, but I've been thinking about things that have happened on roadways since I've lived out there many years. We used to live on Spurgeon Road near Clements, and I think 3 or 4 times before the house was built across Clements, people would come screaming by late at night and not know that there wasn't a road on the other side of Clements, and would shoot across the street and be in the field. That happened 3 or 4 times. Also, at least twice, my neighbor and my husband had to go dig people out from 3rd Street where it turns into Clements. They'd shoot straight across, not make the curve, and be off the road there too. So there's just that. But I'm impressed too with how the tendency seems to be with roadways to make them have greater capacity at a higher rate of speed, and then we have to put in calming devices. And we have a calming device here. And why would we undo that situation to keep the roads safe? Is something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rupp-Calvis.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Dahlgren. I live at 2008 37th Avenue. I do not live on North Avenue, and as a matter of fact, with the opening, I might see less traffic on my street. But being a neighbor in the Target Range area, I'm going to speak out against the proposal to close. I'm also a president of the Big Sky Park Stewardship Committee, which Big Sky Park is largest in the inventory of county parks and will have a negative impact with the opening of North Avenue. First off, I'd like to thank all the commissioners for taking a step back. I heard about this about a month plus or minus ago, and I appreciate taking the time to be a little bit more reflective, because I found out on a Tuesday the opening was supposed to have gone on a Friday. I appreciate you taking a step back. North Avenue, opening in North Avenue is a bad idea for many of the reasons, all the reasons stated, and probably more. I think if you took a hand poll vote out here, you'd find out that most, if not all, stand in opposition to that. As representative of the Big Sky Park, I see the negative impacts going forth with the increased traffic from Big Sky High School, the public safety hazard for horse traffic and kids as well. You've already heard that. It seems to me that the statutes that have been quoted, I'm just not one that believes that state statute, county statute, administrative rules are so wooden that there are not flexibility and avenues to get remedy for cause. And I think in this case, there is cause. Seems to me in the case of the statute, Montana Code Annotated 7-14-2133, it defines what an obstruction is. And if you looked at that, it tends to reflect upon and list things that are temporary closures like rocks and trees across the road. It does not at all define in terms of intentional closures for traffic calming. Additionally, the second statute is Montana Code Annotated 7-14-2601, which does allow for closure and provides for a petition process with 10 signatures that would allow the commissioners, upon their choice, to abandon or keep that road closed. The other way to look at that, if I'm sure there's enough energy in this room right now and probably enough representation of the Target Range area that we could go back to the state and get remedy at the state level by writing legislation to give us enough flexibility. We could look at this as a temporary closure until we can fix this problem, but I think there are ways to do this without us having to do that. I see No urgency here. The proposed closure is not solving any time-sensitive problem, and I request and suggest that you keep North Avenue open. This is a great opportunity for the Missoula Board of County Commissioners to show their responsiveness to the citizens that elected them and they're supposed to represent. And I also understand, Commissioner Strohmeyer, that if the decision is delayed, I hope that there's a public notice so further comment or people can be when that decision is made. I can't believe this is the only county road that's closed in the state of Montana, and I think I'd like to see the whole focus change from why we have to close this road to what avenues are there available to us as citizens and leaders of this community to say, how can we keep this open? What remedies are available to us? And with that, I'll conclude. Thank you.
Thanks. And Bill, I think you meant keep it closed, not open.
Keep it closed.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Sheila Mealy, and I don't really want to follow that. I live just on the west side of the horse park, just north of North Avenue. I'm also the vice president of the Missoula Horse Council, which manages the park. So if this road were to open, it would greatly affect us. We've already heard a lot about the safety aspects, but putting horses in the mix creates a whole nother level to it. We have a lot of local riders in the area that ride their horses across north into the park, and vehicle versus horse, it never ends well for either party. Also, in the corner that borders North Avenue, in the corner of the horse park, is a dedicated 4-H arena. We hold a lot of events there that mostly focus on children. And horses are flighty prey animals, so if there's a loud noise that spooks them, it can cause them to flee. So there really is a huge safety aspect to it, and I think you've all heard the passion of everybody in the room that is against this closure. I understand that you have to uphold the law. I get that, but the attorney made it very clear that there is the ability for you to close it temporarily. I would like to respectfully request that you keep it closed for a temporary period of 99 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Don Lofsgarden. I don't live quite as near as most of the people here. I live on Spurgeon Road. I travel North Avenue, beyond that barrier, many times on my bike. Did you get my name? Okay. And a lot of people want to testify, so I'm going to shortcut what I'm doing, but I did provide a written copy of my testimony for all three of you to look at.
Yeah, if you could just give a copy to, okay, very good.
Another thing that I would point out is that with the new Fort Missoula Park, that road on North Avenue provides a very nice, safe route to getting there. If you go down North Avenue until 36th Avenue, you can turn over to South Avenue, and there is a crossing there of South Avenue into the northwest corner of Fort Missoula. And that's where all the soccer fields are right now. When we wrote the neighborhood plan several years ago, one of the things we studied in detail was the pattern of the roads and things to see whether we needed more roads or other adaptations of things. And we found none. And right now, on a 1.1 mile stretch from South 3rd Avenue to South Avenue, there are 4 east-west roads that go from Clements Road to Reserve Street, and all of them even go beyond that. There's no need for any other more streets running like that, turn into a highway thing. There are 4 roads in there. Along that stretch, there are only 2 roads that have a path along them. That's South Avenue and South 7th. Effectively, North Avenue in that area has a path on it. You go west of Clements Road, North Avenue has a path on it, and with the light traffic and things and all of
pedestrian and bike traffic they're talking about, effectively it's working roughly like a bike path now. And I'd like to mention one more thing. In thinking about this a little bit, I thought about the situation of the Little League baseball fields at the corner of Tower and Spurgeon Road. Tremendous amount of foot and bicycle traffic of kids at this time of the year. It's a very unsafe situation. It really needs a bike path on Spurgeon Road with an irrigation ditch in there as well. It's a big proposition to do that, and that's not likely to happen anytime soon. But in thinking about it, with a little advertising from the West Side Little League, it could be fixed up so that the kids could cross from North Avenue, go down North Avenue, cross across the horse arena, whatever it is there, and which joins onto the Little League fields. And also, if they go on down on North Avenue West to Tower, that street is a street with big wide shoulders, and that's another way you can get in there. And so if again, these are all arguments for not taking that barrier out of there right now.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Weatherly. I'm here with my wife, Susan. We live at 2001 35th Avenue, which is right on the corner at the entrance to the horse park at 35th Avenue and North Avenue. We've lived there for the past 18 years. And we would like to see the commissioners make every effort to keep North Avenue closed or in its current status. What I want to talk a little bit about today is safety issues out there, both that exist as well as the potential to increase those safety issues if North Avenue is open. Right now, North Avenue has no stop signs of any kind from the Big Sky High School to this barrier on North Avenue. That's 3/4 of a mile of street. That's the local drag strip for the kids coming out of Big Sky High School. It's not unusual at all to see kids come tearing down there, turn left on our street or 36th or 37th and race down to South Avenue, whether they're trying to beat the other kids that are going down South Avenue or what, I don't know. We see kids drag racing down that strip. It's not uncommon to see 2 to 5 vehicles come out of Big Sky High School and they're bumper to bumper coming by our place at 45 miles an hour or faster. And if you open North Avenue and it's single lane, sooner or later one of those kids are going to go through that single lane without reducing speed because he's beating everybody behind him. And so that single lane where you look at traffic coming the other way, it looks a whole lot different at 45 miles an hour than it does at 25 miles an hour. To prove the kids' speed down that street, we had a freshman at Big Sky High School come down North Avenue, go out of control and drive into our house. It was just a few pennies shy of $33,000 to fix what he did to our house and our property.
I don't see the need for opening Big Sky or North Avenue. Big Sky right now has excellent access. You got South Avenue east-west, you got Tower Street to the north, and with the new roundabout on South Avenue, they now go through the park and out to Fort Missoula and get to Miller Creek without ever going to Reserve Street. And somebody already mentioned it. You're looking at opening a new bridge on South Avenue, which is going to be the main corridor for traffic. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my mind to try and increase the traffic on North Avenue to get them to McClay Bridge when that's going to be closed, abandoned, or removed in the future, according to the plans. The things that the county should look at safety-wise, right now in front of our house on 35th, that's the main access to the equestrian park. Those big diesel trucks with horse trailers hauling lots of horses with a camper in front are really long. They come up and have to cross North Avenue. Any increase in traffic on North Avenue presents a problem for those vehicles. I think the county should look at perhaps putting stop signs on North Avenue, maybe in addition to the cross streets like 35th, 36th, perhaps switching the stop signs at Tower Street as well, because there's no need to increase the traffic or the flow of traffic on North Avenue because per the county's traffic report for this meeting shows that the traffic isn't that great anyway. So aiding the traffic and minimizing accidents, I think, should be looked at seriously. The horse park is really becoming popular for walkers, hikers, people walking their dogs. With the improvements of the trail last year, that's just an excellent facility, and boy, it's really drawing the people. Only problem is they have no place to park. So they park on the edge of the road or they park in the ditches. Same way, every time Big Sky has a track meet, they park on both sides of North Avenue, both sides of Tower Street, because it's close to the athletic facility, and essentially turns those roads into single lane roads. So they're not going to convey a lot of traffic at those times.
Mr. Weatherly, you're about 4 minutes. So.
Okay, one more thing.
Okay.
The traffic report that was included on the website, it says there's a small increase in overall traffic. However, I think the speed of the traffic, even though there's a small increase, and that the increase can occur during a short period of time, for instance, when Big Sky gets out, it has a huge impact on what happens to the people that live along North Avenue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Don St. Peter. I live at 4805 Bitterroot Drive, which is at the west end of Maclay Bridge. I would ask that you take this discussion and look at it from a slightly different perspective. And that is, we're talking about this situation today because Horace Brown, many years ago, took an action he was not authorized to take without the knowledge and consent of the commissioners. So the discussion you're having today is a discussion that should have occurred when Horace was looking at blocking North Avenue. So the discussion really isn't, should we open North Avenue? The discussion is, what is the justification for closing a public road that has been a public road for many years? And I would tell you that I don't think that you can come up with a good justification. I understand the concerns of the neighborhood. I would be very happy, my property borders River Pines Road. I would be very happy if the commissioners would allow me to encroach on that public right-of-way and close off River Pines Road. It would make my neighborhood much nicer. But that's not the issue. The issue is that was a public road. It was closed by a county official taking unauthorized action. So what is the justification for closing a public road today? And I would tell you that although I understand the concerns of the neighborhood, the decision to close North Avenue is not justified as being in the public interest. And that's how you should approach this decision. We're here because of action that was taken years ago that shouldn't have been taken. So what is the justification for closing a two-lane road today? And although I've heard all this comment, I've not heard a good justification for essentially abandoning a public right-of-way. And in my experience, the threshold for abandoning a public right-of-way is relatively high. I haven't heard anything that meets that threshold test yet. So I think when you discuss this, you should look at it in that context, because the decision you're going to be making is not whether you should open North Avenue, it's whether you should close North Avenue indefinitely. And if it's not apparent, I'll make it clear. I'm in favor of opening North Avenue as a two-lane road the way it was originally intended. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. St. Peter.
Hi. My name's Steve MacArthur. I live at 3406 West Central Avenue, and I'm a newbie in the neighborhood. I've only been there for 11 years, but my wife and I walk North Avenue on a regular basis, both at the Equestrian Center and on our way to the Trough, and down through Target Range School. It's a beautiful, relaxed, and very rural kind of feel. I would hate to see the road opened up, and if the county is trying to support livable space in which people can walk safely, I think opening North Avenue is a move in the wrong direction. I would recommend that you look at abandonment of the section that is not paved and keep the barrier in place at least for a temporary 99 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. MacArthur.
Hello, I'm Kevin O'Maher, live at 3708 North Avenue. I want to address Mr. St. Peter's comment regarding opening versus closing the road. It's already closed. Opening it would be a change. And I want to address the monetary issues. You say an estimate of $50,000 to conduct this change. To do it right and make it a two-lane road would be considerably more. And if the county public works department has all that money burning a hole in their pocket, I'm sure everybody in this room could provide a list of potholes that could use some considerable attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Fred Stewart. I live at 4675 South Avenue West in Missoula. Just a couple of brief comments. In the neighborhood plan, looking at the transportation grid for the area, it was recognized, as several people have already commented, that the east-west access that's provided by South Avenue, Spurgeon Road, 7th and 3rd is adequate for the area. So we don't really need an additional east-west access. And I think that should be one of the key things that you consider is the need to open it up. In terms of a comment that came from the county attorney, John Hart, John, I'd like you to, I understand the general principles and then the specific requirements for the commissioners. And I can just see the commissioners saying, well, we don't have any flexibility here. We have to do this because that's part of the specifics of the state law. What I'd like to see you do is come up with a way, recommendation, wording, whatever, to give the commissioners relief from that specific requirement, move it back into the general requirement where they can consider the needs and concerns of the people that live there rather than being, quote, forced into a situation. And wording that would go to the legislature to give the commissioners the flexibility to do what needs to be done here would be very helpful, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
My name is Janice Gomersalo-Maher. I live at 3708 North, so right around that area. I think a lot of people have brought up some good points. I want to reiterate that we want to keep the neighborhood safe. There's a lot of young children who walk to Target Range School right through that barrier, and that opening it up would make a higher risk for them. If you don't know that we would get higher rates of speed, they just built the roundabout for the new park, and they had to reroute everybody while they were building that, and it went right through the neighborhood. After 7 days of that, we had 3 or 4 police officers, law enforcement out there writing tickets for 5 days in a row. You can look up how many tickets they had to run. It's posted as 25. They all went through 35, 45, 55, and got a lot of tickets. The other thing I want to bring up, I am also a family physician. We're working very hard to make Missoula area healthy. We're trying to do a lot more outdoor walking, biking. We just got to become part of the Robert Wood Johnson Invest Health project, and they are working through 3 specific neighborhoods in Missoula that they're trying to make them walkable, and they're taking pictures and they're looking through it and they're trying to find ways to do it. This neighborhood has that. We have the soccer fields close by. We have the equestrian park that everybody uses to walk around. We have the baseball fields. We have a lot of people walking around. We shouldn't put that at risk.
Thank you.
My name is Linda St. Peter. I live on the other side of McClay's Bridge on the Blue Mountain side. My husband spoke earlier, and I thought it was very unfortunate that as he spoke, I heard members of the audience threaten to break his other arm and do a hissing sound. I really think that's an unfortunate way to approach what we're trying to do, have a civil discourse here. And there is going to be differences of opinion. What I would say is that we need to look at the big picture. This doesn't affect just 7 homes. This is a county road. It is a public road, and it should be part of a county plan. What I understand right now is that we've already made the decision that a bridge is going to be moved. Maclay Bridge won't be at the end of North Avenue. It's going to be on South Avenue. So the concerns about kids racing to try to get to the bridge doesn't exist when we look at our big plan. They won't be racing down North Avenue to go to a bridge that doesn't exist. And the South Avenue Bridge is going to be a whole different bridge, which will not promote a recreational area. It will have a bike lane or pedestrian lane. So it changes. You have to look at the whole big picture. Every road has innate dangers. That's why we look at bike lanes. That's why we look at speed bumps. I come from a military family, and that's carried on with my children. I would really like to be able to access the military cemetery, which is growing greatly. And the way that has the least traffic, or would have the least traffic, is to go down North Avenue from where I live instead of South Avenue and driving in front of the high school. There's also a daycare my granddaughter goes to, which is across the street from the high school. Well, I can turn in front of that high school, or I could go down North Avenue, which is supposed to be available to me, and get to that daycare without being involved in all the traffic and all the kids in front of Big Sky High School. We have to look at this from a county-wide planning position. Everybody has, I don't remember, what is the expression, their bull to go or whatever it is. But we have to look at the common good and be responsible for the big picture. And I would ask you to do that. I think something that's been initiated unlawfully should not be affirmed. I think we should go back to what it was supposed to be. And if there are safety concerns, that's a separate issue that definitely should be addressed. So I would like it open so I can access the cemetery. I would like it open so I can access the daycare in the safest mode possible. If that means what we can afford to do is a 1 lane, I'll take a 1 lane. But I think what's appropriate is to put back what it should have been before an unlawful act was taken and it was unlawfully encroached upon, which is the 2-lane county road that it was before Horace decided I'm going to do something else on my own. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. St. Peter.
My name is George Hart. I live at 4405 North Avenue. Pretty consistently, I would say 4, 6, maybe 12 times a week, I watch vehicles speed on North Avenue. The sheriff gets out there, other than when he's collecting boaters and swimmers from the Bitterroot. The sheriff gets out there twice a year, maybe, on that side of North Avenue. I was surprised to hear he was on the other side of North Avenue. But with as little enforcement as there is already on North Avenue, there should be no expectation that the traffic will ever be calmed by a 1-lane inadequate provision. The county attorney and I disagree on, we have the same surname, but we disagree on the existence of a road. Currently, the road on North Avenue stops, and it stops on the other side too. And so it is not currently a road, it's a dead end. And the issue before you seems to be, do you want to open that road? And if so, how many dead folks do you need before you decide to make it a real 2-lane road as opposed to a temporary squeezing of traffic, which doesn't seem like it's going to work. Excuse me. The other thing is, with the county park open, and of course with Big Sky by new drivers using that road currently. Most law enforcement is going to choose to be on the busier road, the more high-profile road, which I believe is South Avenue. And if we can imagine that there is going to be a bridge on South Avenue, I can imagine that the South Avenue is going to be patrolled more heavily by, to its extent, city police and county sheriffs. But if I'm leaving the park and I want to get home, or I want to get to existing bridge, or if I just want to avoid the traffic on South Avenue, I'm going to go down 36 to north, and I'm going to take my left, go west, and I'm going to go through that area. So if my goal is to avoid a speeding ticket and still get there quickly, I'm going to speed on North Avenue. And since there won't be any law enforcement there, at least there hasn't been any law enforcement, presence on North Avenue, then I'm a lot safer. I'm not going to get a ticket by going that direction. So if you're going to look at the future of what this use is going to be, I think you ought to consider that the park being open is going to send a lot more folks through that area off of what is currently within the budget of the sheriff department to patrol, and onto local roads that aren't needed and certainly aren't wanted by the neighborhood. I don't know who you're going to please, other than the folks that live on the other side of the bridge, but I know that the people don't want that to happen, and I think that the commissioners would be making a mistake to vote against what the people want.
Thank you, Mr. Hart.
My name is Kim Ashwell. I reside at 3707 Mount Avenue, which is approximately 1 block to the north of this barricaded road. I also own the house next door to me, so I get 2 people up here. I count for 2. I'm also a horse owner, and I'm very involved in the Big Sky Park Stewardship Committee. I've been the treasurer, and from its inception, I have been a member. We see the park in a different way. We see target range in a different way because we walk, we ride our horses, we ride our bicycles. I've used North Street to access the pathway that was put up along Clements Road. So there's a beautiful pathway there. I don't think I could access it as easily from Spurgeon Road or from 3rd or from South. It's just a great thoroughfare. In the last 30 years that we've lived there, we have walked at least 2-3 times a week. My husband probably more than me. And you see the world differently when you're on foot. And I respect the woman who said that she would like to drive to the cemetery. It's a beautiful cemetery, and our veterans deserve to be recognized and memorialized. But I have a much clearer picture of our community when I'm on foot. And when I'm on foot and I can visit the cemetery, I can visit the horse park, I can sit on those beautiful benches that have been provided by the community, not by taxpayer dollars. And I can look out and reflect on what it means to be rural by design. I am so blessed to be able to live in an area where people are friendly. They love one another, they help one another, they greet one another, and we have the perfect location. Please don't change it. Do what you can to keep that avenue closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ashwell.
Hello, Joanne Kidder, 3832 North Avenue. I've been thinking about what started this whole debate, and we heard from Greg Robertson that it came to their attention that Kathy Marquette's property was up for sale, and they wanted to be sure that the new owners, the prospective buyers, knew that there was a thoroughfare through the property. So that happened. It was written up, it happened, the new buyers knew that. But why does that mean we have to open this road? I mean, to me, there's some kind of leap in logic, and I'm not understanding the reason that what we gain from opening this road. Clearly, the majority of people do not want this to happen. We've heard from one family that does want it to happen, but I am not hearing the positive aspects or the impetus to open this road.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joe Baumgartner. I live on Dairyview Court. I'm just a half a block from where this block is, or where the road is closed. And I've heard everybody talk about it. It's a temporary closure, but I just want people to know it's been closed over 52 years. Because I was born and raised in the neighborhood, and I used to ride my bike through there when I was a little kid. And I don't know if you guys realize I don't think it's ever been open. To my knowledge, and my parents have been out there obviously longer than I have, it's never been open. So everybody's had great points today, but I've heard nothing to say how long this thing has been closed, and it's forever as far as I know. That's all I had to say, just something quick.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. We're not going to just speak from the audience. Next.
Hello, my name is Larry Ben-Bennick. We live at 3325 North Avenue. We're one block west of the high school. My wife and I have lived at our present address since 1985, so 33 years. We also lived before that in 1974 at 4020 and a half, so just on the other side of the barricade. So basically on just east of Clements Road on North Avenue, and again, to our knowledge, that's been closed the whole time and even before that. Much has been said here. I'm not going to try to rehash much of that, but what I do want to say, I want to address the safety aspect. Over the years, we've raised two children who are both adults now, have children of their own. And we've seen a lot. My wife and I and our children have seen a lot of speeders up and down. It's not just high school students, although they're the majority of it. There are adults also. Some live in the area. Most do not. And people just come whiling through there. We've never seen them before, and it's a speedway. Probably the scariest is when you see two vehicles going side by side in excess of 50 miles an hour. And it's happened many times, many times. We'll shout at them, we'll yell at them or something when they go by, get the bird, whatever it is, and mysteriously our house in the next few days or weeks is paintballed, eggs thrown at it, windows broken on our vehicles parked in the driveway. So no way to prove who did it, but we get the idea. We think it's a disaster waiting to happen by opening that. And again, it was mentioned earlier, I would not want to be the one who loses a child or a grandchild with that road being open. So I'm asking you to please reconsider this. This is not necessary. If people from the other side want to get around, it takes an extra 30 seconds to drive to South Avenue or to Spurgeon to get wherever they want to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Jones at 3747 North Avenue West, the last house on the left before the proposed change. And everything I think has pretty much been stated, but I do want to say that opening North Avenue puts a direct corridor between Big Sky High School and Clements. If you drive on Clements at any point after school gets out for the children at Target Range Grade School, you will see them walking home. And you will have to be careful because they're playing, they're going home, and oftentimes they step into the road on Clements. If you put the high schoolers in cars right up against Clements where the children are crossing to get home, I think you're asking for a big problem. And I respectfully ask you to look at the safety aspect of that. And I thank you, and I wanted to reiterate what someone said, why? What is the reason for the proposed change? What is the motive? What do you have in mind for the change being something that's positive? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Hello, my name is Katie Gonzalez, and I live at 3625 North Avenue West. I have three small children, 7, 5, and 2. And one thing I just wanted to add, there's no school bus that comes that way. So those kids that all live around our area, which is 25 minimum. That's the only way to get home. A parent picks them up or they walk or bike. It scares me to death that you would open this road because it could be one of my kids that is run over. So please abandon this road, leave it how it is, whatever you have to do, just don't open it. Oh, the other thing I thought of, Big Sky High School, I know we make exceptions for how the road is set up by a school. I mean, doesn't this count? Can we accommodate the road somehow because of a high school? That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Anyone else who has not spoken? Representative Curdy.
Dear Commissioners, my name is Willis Curdy, but today I'm going to wear a different hat. And that hat is one of the fine folks who about 10 years ago sat down in the Target Range School and designed the Target Range Neighborhood Plan. I see many of my colleagues in this room who helped design that great document. And I have to give credit to some very innovative, very professional individuals who put together an awesome document. My charge was to write the transportation plan for the Target Range Neighborhood Plan. And a lot of effort and consideration with the neighbors were put into that document as to outline what the neighborhood desired in terms of a transportation neighborhood. And we recognize the fact that, as said here earlier today, that the speed is too high, that we have a lot of traffic and it's growing. But I want to keep in mind that folks need to remind, the members of the commission need to remind that this is a rural neighborhood. And it's, as somebody mentioned earlier, rural by design. And I would encourage the commissioners to keep that in mind when they come to deciding on this issue. Personally, I would encourage them to leave the situation as it is. We said 4 major northeast-west arterials, 1 north-south arterial. And we hope that the commissioners would stay the course in terms of leaving where things are. And I would hope that the commissioners would give some serious consideration to reviewing the speed on North Avenue. I know as a member of the Target Range Homeowners Association, we have talked about reducing the speed on North Avenue from Clements to the bridge. We would seriously encourage you to look at that. And we would also encourage you to maintain, except for probably the 5 major arterials, keeping the speed limit in the Target Range area at 25 miles an hour and enforced. And thank you.
So I'm glad to hear you in favor of that, because we took that to the legislature last session, because we don't have the authority to go to 25. I know that you probably were in favor of it, but it did not pass.
I sponsored the bill for Missoula County.
Right. So I hope you'll take it again, Mr. Curdy. So thanks for doing that. But we don't have that authority right now.
Thank you.
I'm Natalie Harrington. I live at 1535. I'm nervous. I
That's
live
okay.
on
You
the
live in the
corner
area.
of 37th
Okay.
Avenue and Mount, right across the street from Big Sky Park. My husband and I have lived there for 25 years and loved every day of it. We raised our kids there. It's a safe place. We love the country feel, and that's why we bought our home there. I agree with everybody. I'm not going to repeat what everybody has said. I am definitely wanting to keep the barricade on North Avenue as a traffic calming device. And I would also like to say, as each of you county commissioners have run for elections, you've promised to hear the people and to listen to the people. And this is a perfect time to keep that promise and do what the people are asking you to do. However that can happen, it would be nice to keep your promise. I ask you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harrington. Any additional public comment? Okay, I will close the public hearing. As I mentioned, we're not going to be taking action today, but are there questions from the commission that you'd like followed up? And I guess I will prime the pump here a little bit. So I guess going back to the one item that I had brought up originally, John, I guess I would be interested in pursuing what, if any, at all, case law or precedent is there in the state of Montana relative to 7-14-2601 and the whole business of altering a county road? Is that indeed, and it might very well be that it is restricted to altering a right-of-way, but is there any decision space there whatsoever as to how alter is interpreted? The second point, and this is a question for you, Greg, are there other county roads in Missoula County that have similar human-made or installed obstructions that using the same principle would need to be addressed? And I can think of one, perhaps Point 6 Road. It's been brought to my attention that is gated by a Forest Service gate. I was made aware of possible obstruction in a road up near Sealy Lake. So A, are there other roads that are in somewhat of a similar situation? And I guess B, do we have a methodology for how we go about prioritizing which ones ought to be addressed and mitigated for safety reasons?
In terms of the one in Sealy Lake, that is known as Elaine's Way. There is a barrier adjacent to a creek. It was looked at several years ago when the issue was brought up that a property owner had blocked it. We looked into it. Turns out that section where the barricade is on a private right-of-way and not within our jurisdiction. So we couldn't do anything about it. Point 6 Road, I've heard about, was supposed to be put at the Forest Service boundary. The Forest Service installed that and probably didn't know where the boundary was. But there are no residents beyond that point. And if you deem it appropriate, I'll make sure it gets removed and relocated to the appropriate spot, or at least work with the Forest Service to get it relocated.
Okay, and I would just add that one point that's come up is, why are we here considering this today? And I would just reiterate something that Commissioner Rowley mentioned earlier, and one of our charges as elected officials is to uphold the Constitution of the state of Montana and the United States, and as a corollary to that, that includes following state law. So much of the discussion that we're having today is ultimately, regardless of how we feel about the merits or demerits of this road being closed or not, it's going to turn on how we are complying with or not state statute. So that is why, and as simply put as I think I can.
Right,
Other questions?
Once before, I had a county attorney remind us that when we take the oath, we don't say, "I'll hold the laws I like." I mean, so that's part of it. When you're made aware of something, you can't pretend you don't know it. So we're here. But I heard a lot of things that I think are important today that, there looks like we could review whether there's need for some more stop signs in the area that you could actually stop traffic. We need to ask our limited law enforcement for more patrol, more presence out there. And we know that we need pathways. We put in the trail along Clements, for example, that gives the kids a space to get out of the road, but wasn't the most ideal way that you'd build a trail, just because there's not a lot of right-of-way. There's some limitations there. And so, for example, when it's dinner time at the trough, there's people parked on it. But there's also just no dividing in space. It's kind of an extension of the shoulder, so it's safer for the kids. It wouldn't be what you would design if you had all the room in the world. So I guess we take our responsibilities to heart, and the road law doesn't talk about the same things that the junk vehicle law talks about. So where we had to ask whether it significantly impacted the neighbors. That isn't what the road law says. It says whether or not people have access to property because of our road. So there are different things to weigh, but I think we can review things that you've talked about and, maybe change the proposal. Can't ignore it forever. We can't change the speed limit. Maybe a few. There was just a few people, unfortunately, in powerful positions in the legislature that didn't like giving the county the authority to reduce law to 25. And you'll drive in other counties and you'll see different things, but they aren't paying attention to the law if they're doing that. So we try, and since Greg has come on, we used to plow private roads in the county. When I was a kid, plow truck came right to our door, and it was a private road. We don't do that kind of stuff anymore. So we're trying to live within the law and serve the people. And you have done a plan there, and when I look at it, I think maybe it needs. We've talked about whether or not we should look at more closely at an infrastructure plan, for example, for the Target Range Orchard Homes area, because there aren't sidewalks or paths in some places that we'd like to. Don't have the money. Maybe the new gas tax will give us a little bit more money to do that. So I hope that you understand that we hear you, but we also know that we can't ignore the law. So that'll be what we have to weigh as we go forward.
Commissioner Rowley. Nope, not right now. Thank you.
I agree, and I just want everyone to know that absolutely I hear you. For the most part, I agree with you. I don't believe in the concept of fixing something that's not broken. I was irritated that this came to a public hearing because let sleeping dogs lie. It's the way everybody wants it, but once it comes to our attention that this isn't legal, then we have that ethical part of upholding the law as part of our duties of office. And so I think that we have some conversations to work through, and maybe we can. The state generally doesn't like to give us more authority. They won't let us set speed limits at 25, but maybe we can work with getting some clarification on our duties through the legislative session. Maybe John can be more creative in finding certain interpretations and things. But at some point, maybe it is what it is. John he's a thorough and competent man. And so I'm glad we're not trying to make a decision today because I'm very conflicted on this one. I absolutely hear you.
And I would just add that, yeah, indeed, one of the remedies might be if our county attorney's office opinion is correct that we are out of compliance with state law as it currently stands, is to change state law. And there are at least a couple legislators in the room here, but I don't know if there is an interest on the part of any of our delegation to consider that, but that could very well be a possible avenue to take. So we will.
Did you want to pick a date, or do you want to just? I'm just trying to think of how to notify people.
Yeah, I don't know if we're ready to pin down a specific date. So what we can do is be in touch with the Target Range Homeowners Association, and also through our typical means of public notice.
We also had a lot of emails from folks, so we have those.
Yeah, we can let everyone who commented know when the next public meeting will be scheduled, where we'll actually have this as an action item. But sorry, we don't have a specific date today, but I think we need some time to digest everything that was said, and I don't want to put any false expectations that might need to be changed. I'm sorry, what was that? Yes. Okay, but thanks everyone for coming, and we do appreciate and hear your concerns. So we'll take a slight break while folks exit the room before jumping into our next item.
Temporarily is not defined.
Clearly, the law needs to be changed.
You know, what I didn't mention, most of these laws we inherited from the early 20th century.
Yeah.
And so it's a different,
Or earlier.
It's a different age. Yeah, I mean, some come from our territorial legislature.
Yeah.
And so, we're in the 21st century now, but we're dealing with transportation statutes that don't reflect this era.
No. I'd be happy to help you out, Diane. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just a couple more minutes and we'll jump into Evergreen Drive.
That's well received and anticipated. What's that?
I kind of find it ironic. My wife is a teacher, or my daughter is a teacher out at Target. Yeah, I'm going to go women.
I had Anna sitting back there. She said her teeth
Oh, oh, evergreen. All right. If folk, oh, if folks could please take a seat, we will get into the next phase of our meeting. All right. If you're still interested in chatting about North Avenue, please take that out in the hall. Otherwise, we'll move north to Sealy Lake now. Okay, so we'll get rolling. Our next item, and I'll open the public hearing on this. This is to consider a request for Missoula County to sign a road use agreement between Double Arrow Ranch Landowners Association and Deer Creek Excavating, and we'll begin with a staff report from Greg Robertson.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. More good news. You are being asked by the Double Arrow Ranch Landowners Association, also known as DARLOA, and Deer Creek Excavating to enter into a tri-party agreement that would essentially restrict or place restrictions on the use of Evergreen Drive, which is a dedicated public road right-of-way, although non-maintained by Missoula County. The staff report is fairly short on this. It's my belief, after consulting with the county attorney's office, that entering into such agreement is not legal nor enforceable. Counties, because they are general powers, subdivisions of the state have very limited authority to place restrictions on the use of public right-of-way. And John can probably answer additional questions. This is stemming from a gravel operation that is currently under the permitting process with the DEQ for the gravel pit operations, and the proponent is Deer Creek Excavating. Hence, the agreement is coming as a result of a condition by the Powell County Planning Board that we enter into such agreement. I think the issue is better, in terms of placing restrictions on use of any public right-of-way. It rests with DEQ and their open cut mining permit. Part of the application process is a operations plan that must be adhered to during operation of the gravel pit. And DEQ has it completely within their authority to restrict or place restrictions on the operator in terms of haul routes and hours of operation, et cetera, as a part of their permit process. And so this conversation would likely be better held with the DEQ staff and their permitting process rather than through the county.
Thank you. John, do you have anything to add?
Commissioners, I don't really have anything to add. I, of course, reviewed the staff report from Mr. Robertson and addressed the law in that staff report, and Greg summarized it. And then I think he's exactly right in the sense that this is really an issue for DEQ. One thing that I would add, though, in terms of and I'll just read from Montana Public Road Law, which is the leading legal commentary on road law in Montana. It's the only one that I know of, too. It says various statutes permit government entities to take actions which affect or regulate the amount or nature of use of public road rights-of-way. For example, under Montana subdivision statutes, a county or a city may refuse to approve a residential or commercial subdivision because of a concern about the impact that the subdivision may have on traffic along a public road right-of-way. However, there is nothing about the nature of a public road right-of-way which prohibits increases in the number of residences or businesses which gain access via the public right-of-way. A county may establish zoning which prohibits gravel pits in a residential area, in part to protect landowners in the area from heavy truck traffic, but nothing about the nature of the public road rights-of-way through the residential area permits trucks from using those rights-of-way. So essentially what that's saying is that that Title VII, the statutes that I talked about earlier this afternoon related to the use of county public road rights-of-way, don't authorize you as commissioners to enter into this agreement. And then more importantly, we could not enforce the agreement if we were to enter into it. But there are other ways, and notably it would be through the DEQ permitting process where these types of restrictions could be implemented and enforced.
Commissioner Curtis.
So the things that I remember about the DEQ and a gravel operation are usually hours of operation and stuff. Do you really think that they have the ability to say that he could do limited loads that only went as far as somewhere? I mean, it seems to me like once the truck's loaded with gravel and hits a public road, there's not much anybody can do to stop it from continuing.
I think any permit condition is enforceable, whether DEQ chooses to or not is another thing, and I'm sure it would be based on resources and the like. I think if there were repeated offenses brought to their attention, that they would take action to get it corrected.
John, and just for clarification, beyond your opinion that we, as Missoula County, don't have a good legal basis to enter into an agreement like this, would a private homeowners association have any legal authority or ability to enter into an agreement with another third party for use of a county road?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, which I will open. Come on up to the mic. As with the previous public hearings, please be respectful. Keep your comments to 3 minutes if possible, and state your name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Martin King. I'm an attorney in Missoula.
Martin, can we have?
Yeah, you have to be by the mic.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Martin King. I'm an attorney here in Missoula. I represent Double Arrow Landowners Association, Inc. Please, no hissing. I appreciate that. Darloa is a nonprofit corporation that is charged with enforcing the covenants and roads and those types of things of the Double Arrow development, which, as you know, is a multi-phase development located in northeast Missoula. Over 700 properties, over 700 landowners. I think you're well aware of it. When the gravel pit that was at issue came before the Powell County Commissioners and the Powell County Planning Board, Darloa basically was non-committal one way or another. They didn't take a position on it. We have landowners that are for it, landowners that are against it. However, when it became apparent that the pit was going to go in, Darloa felt a responsibility to protect the landowners, including the objecting evergreen landowners, in several ways. First, to ensure that the roads within Darloa, some which are, as Mr. Robertson pointed out, public roads by virtue of petition, but some which are private roads. But the goal of Darloa was to protect the integrity of those roads and to ensure that, you know, the haul route for this gravel pit didn't come right through the center of Darloa to go onto Highway 83 to service properties outside of the Darloa subdivision. And hence, you know, the approval that was given to the operator requires them, for the most part, to go out Morrell Road and Cottonwood Lakes Road. The second goal for Darloa was to allow itself or make available to itself the possibility of purchasing quality gravel at low cost. And hence, they negotiated the possibility with Deer Creek of allowing them, in the instances where gravel was going to be used by Darloa, to come through Evergreen, as opposed to going around on 83 and coming in the other route of Darloa, which would include private roads, and therefore causing more damage to other landowners within Darloa, who frankly suffer the majority of all travel in and out of the subdivision, including to Evergreen, which is at the far end of the development. And the third goal of Darloa, and an important one, was to allow them emergency evacuation route through Evergreen Drive where it borders and goes into Powell County, which is a private driveway, which they felt, and I think justifiably so, is important considering fires and other emergency situations that they have faced up there. So those concerns were made known to the Powell County Planning Board. Mr. O'Haron from Missoula County also expressed concern about those things, and that was sort of the impetus for this road use agreement. My client didn't come up with this. This is something that the Powell County Planning Board came up with. And so they negotiated this agreement to provide protection for all of those concerns. And it in addition provides another protection, which is that it limits the traffic on Highway 83 for gravel trucks that are going to be used to service Darloa. And so this road use agreement was negotiated precisely as the Powell County Planning Board instructed us to do. Now, I've read the staff report and listened to Mr. Robertson and to John Hart, and I've looked too at the statute 714-2127, and I would suggest to you that this road use agreement is not a situation where the county is entering into an agreement or making some sort of declaration to limit the use of the road by the public or anyone else. Basically, what we have is we have a gravel operator who's saying, I voluntarily agree to not haul gravel this way, provided that you agree that we can, haul it the other way, and I agree to be bound by that agreement. And my client has said, yeah, we'll agree to do that. And you agree you're not going to travel through Evergreen or through our roads to access other projects, et cetera. You've seen the terms of the road use agreement. I submit to you that that's not a prohibition on the public's use or anyone's use of this road. It's essentially a private contract between my client and the developer of the gravel pit for a limitation of their use of Darloa roads, public and private, in order to allow this production of gravel and the use of gravel within the development, or in instances where it's projects outside the development, not to use those roads. So I disagree with the conclusion reached by Mr. Hart and Mr. Robertson, with all due respect, that our contract violates the statute. It's essentially a contract whereby the operator of the gravel pit has said, I'm going to limit my use. That's the only person that's affected, and they're doing so voluntarily, which I think is a significant difference.
Thank you. Mr. King, you're at 4 minutes.
Okay. In any event, if in fact that is the decision of this board, I would ask that you please make it clear to the Powell County Planning Board and to the DEQ precisely that that is the position of the county, that you feel that you can't control this road in the form of a road use agreement or otherwise, so that there's clarity when the developer goes back or the applicant goes back to explain to the Powell County Planning Board precisely what it is that this county has a problem with as far as this road use agreement, so that they can act accordingly.
And just for clarification, Mr. O'Haron's comments that he submitted to the Powell County Planning Board were on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, so
Okay.
those are our comments.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Mr. King.
Yes.
So, because I think you're right, it's an agreement between two entities, not us. So is the only reason that you're asking us to sign it is because the Powell County Planning Board wants to sign it?
Precisely.
So, I mean, I just see no reason for us to be party to other people's agreements.
Well-
Because your covenants are parties between the people that are, between the people who live there. Covenants are, and if you have an agreement with somebody, hopefully it's a good Montana handshake agreement that somebody's going to stick to, but I don't see any reason for us to be involved in. Our involvement looks like we're trying to restrict somebody's use of a road, so that's why we don't want to be involved.
I understand that. Again, I don't think this agreement violates the law in that regard. I think part of the Powell County Planning Board's motivation was the letter that Mr. O'Haron submitted to them. But if it's the position of the county that you don't need to be a party to this agreement, and you're okay with the agreement without being a party to it, I would just like the Powell County Planning Board to be aware of that.
There are lots of agreements in Missoula County between private people that we don't sign.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Commissioners and Mr. Chairman, I'm Brian Page. I've owned property on the Double Arrow for over 35 years. I now live there full-time, and I'm also a member of the Darloa Board of Directors. I wanted to provide a quick map overview to show you some of the routes that we're talking about. Some of them you're probably familiar with. May I approach and provide these to you?
Come on up. Thank you.
So the first page of that gives you an overview of Double Arrow, which are all the roads that I've got marked in red and yellow. Red ones are, all of the roads are red on there. The yellow ones specifically are public roads. Those are in Phase 3 and Phase 4. I've also marked where Evergreen Drive is on there, if you can see that, and I've marked where the Deer Creek excavation permit is, and there's two colors there, but I won't go through that. The second page, if you can flip to that, shows you the route that's been approved for them that goes from their pit over Cottonwood Lakes Road, over to Highway 83, down through the town of Seeley Lake, and then entering into two of our roads would either be Whitetail or Double Arrow Road. That would be currently how we would have if we wanted to get gravel from Deer Creek excavation, how we would have to get it. You can see the length of that trail. That length costs landowners money because it's time, distance, so forth. You can understand that. You can also see from the layout of that we start from the western edge of our subdivision. And we have to traverse all the roads to get all the way out to the west end of that. So we're constantly traversing on it. It's been mentioned already that there are those primary roads there are used for lots of traffic currently. If you flip to the third page, you see what we're really asking for, which is to be able to access that pit directly from Evergreen, to allow limited access from our, in this case, private agreement. We limit the number of trucks that can come over it. It's not 8,000 loads, which I have seen exaggerated before. It's a certain amount. I believe last year Deer Creek had a total of, I want to say, 60 loads that came into the Double Arrow. Out of that, 40 loads went to one specific lot. So really, we're talking about that kind of thing. It's a very small amount of roads. We put a number on it of 300 to allow us for expansion down the road. Out of 700 lots, we have 600 some odd landowners, and they're constantly building new places on the ranch. So we need the gravel not only for building, but we need it obviously for road maintenance, of which we maintain all of those roads. So all we're really trying to do here is make sense and bring it into the middle of the ranch where we can take it to both sides, and it makes sense not having, it saves us a lot of money from a time, distance perspective with both who's delivering the gravel, with our road maintenance people, if we enter an agreement to get gravel from that with our road maintenance contract. So that's what I was primarily trying to show you there. So that was just trying to clarify what Martin had told you previously. I'd also like to provide a petition that we had over 2 days. We got this many signatures. I'd like to provide it so that you have that for the record.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Page.
I have a
Jean?
question for you, Mr. Page. So does, there's a gap in between the gravel pit and the Evergreen Road. So does Deer Creek Excavating have a road access?
That's an existing dirt road that's in there.
And is that on Forest Service land? And
No, ma'am, that's on his property. He
His
owns that
property.
whole section that joins it. If I would have put the electronic version up, we could have blown it up and you
Okay.
could see that existing road. But
All
his
right.
property adjoins Double Arrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ken Silvestro. I live on Evergreen Drive. I had prepared a number of details regarding the safety of the road, but I think at this point it's a moot issue. So I'm not going to provide you with those details. I will simply say that the Delo board claims that the road has been expanded and it meets all the standards, and according to the manual that the Missoula County follows, it does not meet the standards. But it's a moot point at this time because of what Mr. Hart and Mr. Robinson has told us. The questions that was answered that you, Mr. Strohmeyer, had presented with a definitive no from Mr. Hart that the Delo board cannot enter a legal agreement with a third party. So at this point, I think all we can say, and I hope you will do this, is that you'll go to the Powell County Board and you'll say that the conditions still apply and nothing has changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sylvester. Anyone else? Oh, now's your chance. Okay, we got to take her.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Deborah Silk. I am the president of the Double Arrow Ranch Landowners Association. I am going to just follow up with what Mr. King said. I think if it's the position of Missoula County, and I did read the staff report, that you cannot enter into any agreement that restricts any traffic, either residential or commercial, on any of the public roads within the Double Arrow Ranch Landowners Association, I think that you need to make that clear to the Powell County Planning Board. What we did as an association, after they adopted an emergency restriction based upon a letter that Mr. O'Haron submitted to them, we went in front of the Powell County Planning Board and asked them to revise that. And we provided the road use agreement that we had prepared in agreement with Deer Creek Excavating. They approved that conditioned upon approval by Missoula County. So again, I think if you make it clear that you can't be a party to any such agreement, and I would disagree respectfully with Mr. Hart, I do think that private parties do have the right to enter into private agreements with one another. If you guys feel that you cannot be a party to that, then the Powell County Planning Board needs to know that.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, John, you meant about a county road. not that private parties cannot enter into agreements with each other.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. There's nothing that prohibits Deer Creek Excavating and Darloa from entering into a contract on nearly any subject. And that's between them. That's a third-party contract between them. And it's just not something that Missoula County can enforce or can enter into because of the nature of the agreement being concerning a county public road right away.
And at this point in time, our letter to Powell County Planning Board still stands. I believe one of our recommendations in there was that evergreen be restricted to emergency use only as a condition, part of the conditional use permit. Additional, is there someone else who wanted to comment? Come on up. Okay.
Hi, so I'm Carl Hammond. I'm the Powell County planner, live in Deer Lodge. Yeah, first I just guess I wanted to say I'm glad I was here today and waited out the first couple public hearings to hear this. I just figured I'd give a quick little background on how we got to that point where Missoula County's Board of Commissioners were being requested to sign off on this road use agreement. Because when this original amendment was being brought before the Powell County Planning Board to amend the conditions originally applied to that conditional use permit for Deer Creek Excavating, or at the time LHC, but then Deer Creek Excavating to operate the gravel pit, it was basically a battle at the planning board where we had folks on either side of the room, and a couple of the planning board members basically threw up their hands and said, why are we listening to this debate where every single person here is Missoula County resident and we're talking about Missoula County roads? And one of the planning board members, when the motion came to it, wanted to say, well, let's bring Missoula County into this, make sure they're aware of it, hopefully supportive of it. I was hesitant at that time because of that motion, including you all into the requirement to sign off on that road use agreement. But then again, I'm glad I was here to hear this because I can bring this back to the Powell County Planning Board in case the petitioners or Darloa want to bring another amendment request before the Powell County Planning Board in regards to the conditional use permit for Deer Creek Excavating.
Thank you. And I should say it's okay to come up if you're pro or con. I'm not segregating out folks by whether they're supportive or not of this agreement. So come on up. Now's your chance.
My name is Tim Berry, and I just wanted to say that I guess it's pretty well a foregone conclusion it's going back to Powell County. And like Ken Sylvester, I had some items I was going to cover with you, if it was something you were going to address, but it sounds like I need to bring those up with Powell County. I assume they will reopen the hearing again. Is that what they're going to do, or?
Could you come back up to the mic if you wanted to respond to that?
Curious to know
So in terms of process,
Yeah, well, so the process would be the petitioners, Deer Creek Excavating, would need to bring a request before the planning board to amend the conditions as they currently exist.
okay, thank you.
So I will make my comments at that time.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else?
Can I ask a point of clarification?
Come on up.
Ken Martin King. I heard you say that the Missoula County would not allow the use of Evergreen Drive except for emergency purposes.
We made a recommendation in our letter to the Powell County Planning Board as part of the conditional use process to that effect.
Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that a limitation on the use of the road that you're now telling us is prohibited?
We were commenting on the conditional use permit in Powell County.
Just again, for clarification, there's nothing precluding my client and Deer Creek Excavating to enter into their own separate contract, correct?
Mr. Hart.
That's correct. That's correct. And you know, Martin's earlier point about the statute 714-2127 not being a prohibition on third parties, private individuals from in this case, an excavator voluntarily agreeing not to use a road with another party, that's perfectly acceptable. That's a private action, private agreement between them, and that's a point that's well taken by Mr. King.
Thank you.
But I think the other thing we were trying to say in our letter is that we didn't want that, we didn't think that the permit for the gravel pit should consider Evergreen to be their main access. That's kind of what we were saying, that it should be for emergencies. Now, if you guys make an arrangement for them to haul gravel just into the Double Arrow, that's a different thing. It isn't part of the permit from our point of view, but I don't know what the planner's going to say here.
Come on back up if you want to respond.
Carl Hamming still, Powell County. I guess wanted to clarify, as it currently exists, the only haul route, because that was specified in the conditional use permit for the gravel pit operator, originally LHC, and then it transferred over to Deer Creek Excavating. That only haul route specified in that permit is along Cottonwood Lakes Road. And so that's where it was restricted to just Cottonwood Lakes Road at that time. And they were working with the Forest Service on some road improvements there. And so then all of this came in later with a request for an amendment to change or expand the haul route operations. And so that's how we got there. But at this time, it's only Cottonwood Lakes Road is the haul route.
So do you see that our letter and their request are totally in conflict, or that we're just not wanting it to be the main haul route? They're wanting it to be kind of an emergency, I guess. So, I mean, we were just commenting agencies anyway. We don't have any say. We weren't trying to restrict our road. We just didn't feel it was the best route. I mean, if it was zoned, so those of you who fought us on the zoning a few years ago, if you were zoned residential, you wouldn't have to worry about having a gravel pit next to you. But
No, I mean, I think there is some synergy in finding that compromise there where they're looking to haul into just the Double Arrow Ranch Association. It sounds like a lot of people would be against them hauling all the way to Highway 83. I mean, the way it was written up was that the primary route would still be Cottonwood Lakes Road. That would get them to Highway 83, but then that they would be, well, as the request was, that they could still do some hauling within the Double Arrow.
Okay.
So I think there could be some compromise there. And no, it was, I guess, to answer your question, not a direct objection of how Powell County had operated.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Kathy Hendricks, and I live at 1124 Evergreen Drive, which is about 2 lots from the border of Missoula and Powell County. I'd like to state that you made the comment, Ms. Curtis, that it would be similar to emergency traffic bringing in trucks just for Double Arrow. However, Double Arrow Landowners Association has made a recommendation over the next 5 years to make lots of improvements to all of the roads in Double Arrow. And if this agreement goes through, that would allow as many trucks as they need to make those improvements to come through Evergreen Road, as well as servicing all of the landowners. While I may sound self-centered about that, I purchased my land in 1975. I've been there for 42 years, and that has been a dead-end road for that period. In good faith, we built our home there 3 years ago and retired. The access coming in, I would be one who would benefit from having Deer Creek be able to access Evergreen to deliver gravel to my house since it's right next door. However, I would be more than willing to pay to have it come around in order to not have the number of trucks, and I don't have all the numbers with me, coming through Evergreen Drive in the middle of the ranch when the 2 main accesses from Highway 83 are where all other contractors have to come through. I have concerns about the precedent of having one individual organization access Evergreen Road and be able to service Evergreen Road and no others be able to do that other than coming in from Highway 83, including the gravel pit that is currently located at Highway 83. They still have to come in those 2 roads. There's 2 main roads, they're paved roads, they're wide roads, et cetera. So I'm going to encourage Powell County to maintain those conditions, that we continue to have only the Cottonwood Lakes.
And my understanding is nothing will change unless the petitioner or the applicant comes forward again. Thank you.
Hi, Karen Johnson. I live on Double Arrow Ranch, and I'm also a member of the Board of Directors. A couple of points that Evergreen Road goes through Double Arrow and then extends into Powell County on Mr. Lewis's property. It seems to me that in law, intent carries some weight, and if it was the intent that that road never be used going all the way through, that there would have been a cul-de-sac placed there or something closing those two properties together and having that be truly a dead end. But I think the intent was to someday develop that road. The other thing is, yes, we have two paved roads coming into the ranch, but they are not wider. There's a sign saying on the Double Arrow Road, narrow roads. And for us to not be able to have the option to access quality product through Evergreen just does not make sense to me. And so I know that you're out of out of the picture pretty much, but I would encourage you also to not place restrictions on that county road that the county has never maintained, that we pay to maintain, and place restrictions for emergency use, because we have propane trucks going there, we have garbage trucks, we have all kinds of commercial activity using all of our roads, and so it doesn't make sense to restrict travel on that one particular section of the ranch. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to be clear, we have not suggested that we would be placing restrictions for emergency use on Evergreen Road. The suggestion that we made to the Powell County Planning Board was that Deer Creek Excavating be limited to, as part of their conditional use permit, to emergency use of Evergreen Road, which I believe is what is currently in the conditional use permit.
Okay,
So-
and that was my misunderstanding then. It would seem to us that you were restricting all traffic other than emergency use on Evergreen.
No, I think our position is that we do not have the legislative authority to restrict a road in that way. Okay, thank you. Yeah, come on up.
On the map that I provided you, the Cottonwood Lakes Road, part of that is closed off in the winter, so there's no way to haul gravel out of that pit all the way to 83 and around that long route. So for us, if we want gravel out of there for our road maintenance and our winter maintenance to get sand and gravel, Evergreen Road makes the most sense for us to be able to access gravel there. It is another source of gravel. We've already gone through last year or the year prior where we didn't have that choice. We only had one primary gravel operator in the area, and it took its toll on us financially. So I won't go into all those figures, but just keep in mind that primary route that they have cuts us off in the winter from getting gravel from that pit.
Okay, thank you. Any final public comment? Come on up. Oh, we've got two. Flip a coin. Okay.
I gave you some pictures of Evergreen Drive, and one of them is a picture of the winter time. And in the winter, that road is primarily one lane most of the way. And a lot of times in the summer, there's no way you can get a truck past a car. I have neighbors that have gotten run off the road and their cars wrecked by cars, not trucks, meeting them on that road. And it's just not safe. The safety of the road is bad for meeting trucks. I've met some of the RML vehicles before, and you just can't get past them. And I just wanted to mention the safety portion. I don't want to get hit by one of those trucks coming across that road. Besides all the dust and stuff that it causes. And my name's Ruby Aldrich, and I live at 1065 Evergreen Drive, and I've been there. I bought my house in 2000 because I lived on a dead-end road, quiet, no noise, and now we're being invaded by a gravel pit and asphalt. I understand they're going to be doing over there too, and I'm backed up right against their property.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Michael Cropper. I'm a resident, 15-year resident of the Double Arrow subdivision. We need some help from the commissioners. I know we're not zoned, but Powell County is just over the border of the Double Arrow Ranch. We have absolutely no control other than the things that are going to happen when the gravel pit opens up with the water table and all those other things. And there's going to be another subdivision built just north of that county line in Powell County, which likely will go ahead. That road that we've been talking about needs to be seen. It's got curves and blind corners every single 100 yards. It's a dangerous road at the best of times. There's no barriers. The sides of the roads drop off for 20 feet in places. It's a very, very unsafe road. Somebody needs to go out there and do a proper report on it for the commissioners, I think, just to see what we're talking about. I understand that you have limitations of what can be done, but I think we need some support. We need some support about a gravel pit using those roads, of which we have absolutely no control. Those guys can come in at almost any time of the day or night, and nobody's going to run out of their house and stop them. There's no police there. They could move every single ounce of gravel from that pit out of those roads and turn around and say, oh, we were delivering to Darloa. The other thing is that the Double Arrow Landowners Association does not represent everybody on the Double Arrow subdivision. There are plenty of people here who will tell you that they are working against their interests, the best interests of people who live on Darloa, on the Double Arrow Ranch. You haven't heard from them. I don't know why you haven't heard from them, but I've seen lots of letters sent into the office detailing wonderfully written, intelligent letters to tell you that a lot of what you've heard today is absolute baloney. Of course, it's a great deal for somebody to sell gravel at $15 a barrel, whatever it costs, and say, well, you buy our gravel and we can use your roads. How about that? That's a good contract. Of course it's a good contract. It's also something approaching something illegal. Anyhow, I wish that the commissioners, Missoula County commissioners, could be in better alignment with Powell County and do these things, because all the activity between Powell County and Missoula County is going to take place in this North Sealy Lake area. It's way up at the top of your area, but it's still where a lot of people live, and a lot of people who are somewhat hesitant to come and talk to you and say, this is going to really upset my home that I've been in for years. Thank you.
Thank you. And believe me, we do want good relations moving forward with Powell County. Absolutely. Yes.
Teresa Cahoon, I live on Double Arrow. I just wanted to comment. Deer Creek Excavating, they're great people. They've been in our community for a long, long time. Gary Lewis just got nominated to the fire district board again. And I just wanted to, they're not crooks. I don't believe for a second that they would be using Double Arrow to go service people off of the Double Arrow. They're not that type of people, and it doesn't even make sense. They don't need to go through Double Arrow. They can access. There's North Canyon that I think they have a an access through on that. They would not need to do that. So I just, it really bothered me to think that they're not crooks. They're great people in our community, and they do a lot for our community. I just wanted to make that noted.
Thank you.
So I just need to state on the record that I grew up in a family with a gravel pit, and we didn't charge a different price because we drove further. Somebody called, you say how much a yard of gravel is, you drove it there, you dumped it off. You didn't say, well, if I have to drive further, I charge more. So I find it kind of an odd arrangement in the beginning, I just need to say.
Did you say you were born in a gravel pit? No.
I was pretty
okay.
close.
Okay. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Matt Long, and I'm at 989 Evergreen, fairly close to Ruby there, spoke a couple people ago. I am opposed to the use of Evergreen Road for the gravel hauling operation. We purchased our place 3 years ago, not knowing any of this. I don't know anybody at Deer Creek. I don't know anybody on the Darloa board, but I don't feel they're acting in my best interest by allowing this activity to happen. It's a quiet residential area. To allow this commercial activity to be coming back and forth at all times of the day. Had I known this, I maybe would not have purchased that property to begin with. So I ask your consideration when you're revisiting this to think about those things. That road is, in the wintertime, it is a one-lane road. You have very difficult time. When you meet someone, oftentimes you have to wait or pull to the side, have the other vehicle come around. I'm not really excited about having those gravel trucks coming through. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Any additional comment? Okay, I will close the public hearing. Discussion, questions from the commission?
Well, I would guess that we need to send a letter to the Powell County Planning Board and copy it to Darloa, but to say that we are not going to join in the agreement.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess, do we direct staff to do that?
Well, is it a motion to not sign the agreement?
Oh, right. Yes. I would move that we do not sign as a party to the agreement proposed in our staff report.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
And then I think we probably should notify Powell County, even though Carl's here, which is nice, to let them know that we don't and we still stand by. And I think some of the things that folks pointed out today is one of the reasons we sent the letter in the beginning, is that road isn't really appropriate to become a haul road. And we'll just stand by that. But
Greg, were you wanting to say something?
Commissioners, if it pleases the board, John and I can draft some text on your behalf and get something in front of you early next week.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Yep.
And thanks for everyone coming from Powell County and also up in Sealy Lake. It's a bit of a trek. Did you have anything else? Okay. Thanks, everyone. Is there any other business of the commission today at 10 till 5? Okay, we'll be in recess.